If you're an attorney in the pursuit of a successful law practice, fulfilling career, and the life of your dreams, this podcast has it all. Behind the Bench gives you great tools to overcome the unique challenges you face every day as a law firm owner. Welcome to Behind the Bench podcast with your host, Josh Konigsberg, author, partner, and co-founder of Law Firm Marketing Pros and lifelong entrepreneur.
Welcome to Behind the Bench, the podcast that takes you deep into the world of the legal industry. Join us as we explore the fascinating realm of law, featuring insightful discussions with seasoned lawyers, legal experts, and industry leaders. I'm thrilled today to welcome our guest, Joshua Adams. He's the founder and head honcho of Rock, Paper, Simple, a full-service marketing agency based in Florida. Joshua, why don't you just take a quick moment and introduce yourself to our guests?
Thanks for having me, Josh. I'm excited to be here. I do quite a bit right now. My day job is I run a marketing agency here in Melbourne, Florida. I also serve as a chief fractional marketing officer for 3 companies. I only do that for EOS-run companies. I'm also a bit of an EOS nut myself. Rock, Paper, Simple specializes in the branding side of things. We're a team of 20. We started about 11 years ago. I had come from a failed partnership, and that's a whole long story for another day. But long story short, I started Rock, Paper, Simple with $700, and today we're a team of 20, rocking and rolling. We've won awards every single year. We've been recognized both locally and regionally within the Addy Awards. We were Florida Company to Watch a few years ago. So just excited to be here, and it's been quite a journey.
Well, congratulations on your success. And you're a little humble when you say you've won awards, because my research indicated that you've won over 200 awards. Is that correct?
You know what? I haven't sat down and counted them. That's very possible.
Okay. Well, congratulations on your success. So what inspired you to pursue a career in marketing?
I took a very odd direction to get there. So when I was a kid, my dad handed me a programming book and said, "Here, you'll like this." Which very quickly led to me diving in. I developed little games. I developed applications. When my friends were playing Halo, I was programming. And so when I turned about 14, I discovered the web in terms of web programming. Dove into web design. Started freelancing professionally. I thought I was professional, anyways. Did that through my teen years, and then I had a few other little businesses during there. I had the lawn care thing. I had a Lego online store. I had a bunch of other little things going on in there. And when I was 18, I started my first web design business. I was a web designer. I built websites. I didn't think like a marketer at all. I literally thought like a programmer. I would come to a client. I'd say, "What do you want?" I would try to design it, and then I would build it. And that was what I did. And I got out in the community, started getting really involved, kind of blew up. I ended up being approached by a marketing firm and say, "Hey, how about we merge?" And so I merged my little web design business with this marketing firm, was crazy excited about learning. And I was like 21, right? And so I became a partner at a marketing firm, small firm, 6-7 people. And really, I learned a lot really, really fast. Main reason being that my partner would not be there from time to time. Just, and when I mean not be there, I mean gone for 3 months with no warning. What? And so here I am, I'm the web guy. And I got a phone call one time from a client saying, "Hey, can I reprint our letterhead and envelope on linen?" "Yes, sir. Right away, sir." Linen? That's bed sheets, right? Like, what is? I didn't know what linen was.
Right.
Paper, but I didn't know that.
Yeah, sure it is. Yeah.
And so 3 years of that, I learned branding, marketing quite a bit, as you can imagine. And if it really realized I fell in love with the idea of branding specifically. After a while, I discovered some impropriety and decided to exit the partnership, just in time to have become president and inherit all of the tax debt that my previous partner had not been paying. And so really good timing with that. So literally I started Rock, Paper, Simple with $700 to my name and $36,000 in IRS tax debt at 24, 25 years old. And just started over. And I literally remember walking into the IRS tax office and saying, "I think I owe you guys a lot of money." And they were like, "What are you doing? Why are you here?" I recall telling them, "Hey, I'll pay this off in a year, but I need to make $50 a month payments." And they said, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was the story. And from there, it just kind of took off. Rock Paper Simple initially was a marketing website company. Eventually, we added branding to the mix. We added marketing to the mix. And in 2020, we acquired a video production studio, blended that into what we do. And video today is a huge part of what we do. We actually do more video volume than we do website volume these days, just because it's become such a big piece of what we do.
It's a great story, Josh, and congratulations, man. I just to go through that and have the courage at that age to walk into the IRS office and step up, man up. Congratulations. So with all of that, are there specific markets that you serve? Because we met through a mutual client who's an estate planning law firm. So do you have a specific niche?
We do not. The closest niche we have is we are focused primarily on brand offerings. And so, we're growing in that direction. It's something that we're evolving into. We're very, very good at that. And one thing that we've done over the years is we've actually become less niched over the years. So we've done more things, right? As we added a lot of things to it. And we've recently, where we run an EOS traction by Gina Whitman, and we love the concept. And one of the things it's helping us do is really focus in on our strike zone. What is our purpose statement? What is our niche? Where are we focused? And we're beginning to focus in on that this year. I can say that we don't have an industry niche. I mean, gosh, it literally ranges. Our biggest client is a large nonprofit right now. Ton of awareness campaign work, multiple events a year, tons of video production, et cetera. That's currently our biggest client. Then our next biggest client is totally the opposite. Government contractor, does controls, does automation, as well as ozone, so you have this total different thing. And then of course we have law firms, we have service-based, we have restaurants. So from that standpoint, not really. But we are beginning to discover we are very, very strong in the brand positioning standpoint. We can come in, transform a brand. We just did that with a pool company, luxury pool company in Vero Beach, where we came in and said, all right, over an 18-month period, totally transformed their brand in terms of positioning them and how they're evolving and growing as a company. So that's kind of where we're going.
Many law firms are looking for that. So there's an opportunity there for you as well. So that's where it relates back to the Behind the Bench podcast. So you're also a fractional chief marketing officer. Tell us what it means, like the definition of a chief marketing officer and what you do.
Yeah, good question. So this one actually spawned from a client of mine. We were working together, working on some stuff, doing their rebrand. And he says, hey, would you attend my quarterly leadership meetings? I want your insight into that. And so we started saying, what would that look like, right? How do I create value in that regards? And so we started having a conversation about it. And he goes, I'd like you to be my fractional chief marketing officer, where you are fractionally on my leadership team. And because he runs on EOS, we run on EOS, I understand how he runs his business. I understand the leadership framework, the expectations. I understand the accountability chart, the weekly L10 meetings. And so I said, because you're doing that, let's give it a shot. And so we drafted up a job description of the role. I sit on his accountability chart as his marketing leader. And so I'm accountable for all the things that a marketing leader would be accountable for. I attend their quarterly meetings. So they have their 3 quarterly full days and then the 1 annual 2-day. So 5 full days I'm with them, working through, I'm in the trenches with them. All right. We're having the conversations about hard things, whether it be about marketing or sales or operations or whatever it be. And so there's that piece of it. And then I'm in their weekly leadership meetings. So again, problem solving. Some days I'm there and we don't talk about marketing at all, right? We talk about HR issues or we talk about whatever, but I'm able to be a part of that. I see what's going on, which gives me more insight when it comes time to do the marketing pieces. And then we have the weekly marketing L10s as well. And that's basically my role. And so in those sessions, I'll take to-dos and rocks. So I'll take quarterly goals and I'll take to-dos to do over the week period. And so in that way, I'm a fractional leader on his team. So that's what it looks like. For one of my clients, I actually have direct reports. So 2 of them, my direct reports, if you will, are external. Whereas with one, I actually have a team that I lead. I do the lead manager accountability. I do the 555s. I do the annual reviews with them. I actually have a team of 3 that reports to me. So it's different for each client. But it's really, I get to go and I joke with this, I get to go and play in a few of their sandboxes, right? Where there's different challenges and different things going on. And frankly, for me, I even enjoy when I get to be involved in areas of the business that aren't even related to marketing, right? One of the clients said, "Hey, we're working on interviews, and I got to go put together interview questions." I'm like, "I got really good interview questions. You want them?" And so those are ways that I can help the business just as a leader, let alone just as the marketing leader.
You are busy.
Yes, yes, yes.
For sure.
And I told you about the film projects that I work on. I'm an executive producer. I've got a few other things going on.
Well, it's interesting, as I recall in the accompanying book for Traction called Get a Grip, which is the fable. I believe the marketing person there was also fractional.
Yeah, I believe so.
So,
Yes.
yeah. So, okay. So do you have a unique selling proposition or point? Like, how do you position yourself in the eyes of potential customers?
From the CMO side of things, that, hey, I am a visionary, right? From a EOS standpoint, I think like a visionary. I understand EOS and how EOS is run, and I've got 20 plus years in marketing. And so when I come in as that fractional CMO, marketing myself only to EOS companies, that positions me really well, because they're saying, "Oh, I don't have to teach you EOS. I don't have to teach you what it is to think like a business owner." They know that I'm coming in thinking about bottom line. They know I'm coming in thinking about all the different ingredients that only really a business owner knows, right? You and I know what it's like to run a business. You and I are thinking up at night about, how am I going to make payroll? How am I going to do this? How am I going to do that? How, that account, my accounts receivable is way too high. Why is it too high? We're thinking about those things. And I can bring that kind of thought process to the table. So I bring that there's kind of different layers to that, but that's probably my biggest thing on the CMO side.
So what motivates you to be successful and to win?
Good question. The easiest answer is people. I don't know if you can see on my wall behind me, power talented people. That's been my professional motto for 15 years. It's literally been on this wall or one of the walls of my office for 11 years. When I first set up my first office, I had a little black frame that had power talented people on it on my wall. And then also had a description, "Do all unto the glory of God" also. So those two statements have been on my wall since I started. But that empower talented people thing, that gets me going, right? There have been days, as you know, as a business owner, like, why am I doing this? And I think probably all your listeners are going to resonate with this. Like, why did I choose to do this?
Right.
What was I thinking? And there's been days where I'm like, I'm done. I can't do this. And I think of the team, and I think of some of the team members here, and I go, you know what? No, let's get this done. We can do this together. But I'm very much driven by people. My biggest wins as I think back on my career, yes, there's some marketing wins. Yes, there's some business wins. Yes, they've made those big sales. Those get me going. But my biggest wins relate to people, right? Leaders that I've built up, people who've worked through hard times. Literally, my best memories have to do with working people through challenges like imposter syndrome, right? Where they don't believe they have. I literally had a team member who, when he took the job here, his previous employer says, you can't handle them. You're not good enough. And when they fire you, you can come back. And I'm like, you gotta be, they told him this. And so talking through it, we wouldn't have hired you if we thought that was the case, right? And those are some, like, to me, people working through that stuff is even a bigger win. I'm a people person. I love on people. And those are the kinds of things that really get me going. We've got leaders who have grown, and seeing the growth over the past years, that really gets me going. Seeing that in the CMO role as well, team members stepping up and being empowered, that just gets me going.
That's good stuff. I have a very similar sentiment in that with my coaching, when I coach the other agencies that I'm involved with, and how good it feels when they share a win, whether it's privately with me or whether they put something in a Facebook group. At some of the conferences, we have people come up and hug me and thank me. And, that might have been 6, 8, 10, 12 months ago. I barely remember their name.
Yes. Yeah.
But, having impact is so powerful. And I like to be the dumbest guy in the room, which is real similar to what you're talking about. Right?
Yeah. Possession, smart people around.
That's right. That's right. So with regard to challenges and solutions, what keeps you up at night?
I would say things that keep me up at night are, how do I best put it? am I being the best leader I can be? And this is something that can be a weakness too, where I often I'm looking at myself as the leader and saying, have I provided my team what they need, right? And sometimes that can make it harder for me to be a good manager because I'm so living in that that leadership world. So, EOS especially, and I know I keep going back to it, but I can't help myself. EOS especially breaks that up into, leadership skills and management skills. And I do feel like I'm much stronger on the leadership side. And so from the management side, it's like, have I provided what they need? Am I holding them accountable enough? Am I, those kinds of things. I often ask myself those questions. Those are big, I would say, for me, both in the CMO role, the fractional CMO role, as well as the agency. Have I given the team what they need? And again, that can go both ways. Have I not given them enough, or am I giving them too much? Right? I just had a conversation with one of my CMO clients, and we were talking about, we were doing a 5-5-5, and they were giving me feedback. Hey, we feel like you seem to be really bogged down in a lot of stuff. And I'm like, yeah, I feel like I'm just burning hours on this account. We were talking, frankly, I was spending a lot more hours on their account than we had kind of agreed to. And it wasn't their fault. It was me taking too much on. And we were talking through this idea of, you know what, I am in these sessions with my team. This is the client where I have direct reports. I'm taking too many to-dos for myself. I'm not delegating enough. And so as a leader, I'm going, let me help you. Let me take more things. But as a manager, I'm not doing a good job of saying, here you go, you're empowered, go get it done. And so it's an example of an area I'm working on myself, but also something that I'll be wondering, like, did I take too many things, or did I not take it? That's where my head goes. Again, back to that people theme.
So you've referenced the 5-5-5 multiple times. For our listeners out there who don't know what that is, can you just give them a very brief description?
Yeah, it's just a quarterly check-in with your direct reports, where you come in and you're doing mostly listening. You ask a few questions. You're doing mostly listening. There's a few different formats. What the 5-5-5 stands for is 5 roles, 5 rocks, 5 core values. So how are you doing on your 5 rocks, your quarterly goals? How are you doing on the 5 roles on your accountability chart, what you're accountable for? And then from a standpoint of 5 core values, are you adhering to our core values? Now, most companies don't have exactly 5 of each of those things all the time. It's just a number to remember. It's an arbitrary number to remember.
Yeah.
Which is probably one of the weirdest named tools in EOS. But I find it to be very valuable both as a leader, and in this case, I'm a direct report being, talking to the integrator. But it provides, one of the key pieces of it as well is what's working, what's not working. You check on those things, what's working for you, what's not working for you. This last one I did, the integrator was she's kind of the chief operating officer, said, well, I'm just going to focus today on what's working, what's not working. And that was the primary. We spent 30 minutes on that. And it was really impactful. It was really, really helpful for me to share what I felt were big wins, but also where I felt like I was struggling.
Great explanation of it. Because as you know, we do EOS as well.
Yeah.
So what are the key challenges that marketing professionals are facing today?
I would say there's a bunch. You probably could relate to a lot of these. I think struggling with attribution, it's been tough lately for a million reasons. That's a whole podcast on itself. I would say that retention in the industry can be challenging because you've just got a lot going on. We've been very, very blessed at Rocky Paper Simple with retention over the last year and a half, especially. A lot of my peers are struggling more than we are, but I think talent has been challenging, especially through all the staffing challenges we had through COVID and thereafter. The world going hybrid made it interesting, where all of a sudden your people are getting poached by somebody in California or somewhere else and they don't have to move. So that was really interesting. When I would say that wave kind of hit, we lost a few good people because it was like, hey, I can work for this company over here. I don't have to move, But I would say we've combated that by saying, all right, what do we need to do to knuckle down and retain? We've done a good job of that. But those are the first two that came to mind. Was attribution. It was, and I will add another thing. Marketing has become increasingly complex, right? And it used to be, you could say we're a full service marketing agency and we serve everything and do everything. And you could do that, right? You can't do that anymore. It's just not possible. And certainly you have to be the $1 billion agency to be able to have all those things. And what I've found is kind of like what you guys have done and say, you know what, we've got an area where we are just really, really, really good at it. We're going to niche down. We're going to focus on law firms. We're going to be the best of the best in this space. That's where it's going. And I think agencies that haven't done that yet are struggling, right? We're in that transition as we're determining, okay, I think, you know what, what's our strike zone? We've been doing everything, but we're really good at the brand development from end to end. And so we're understanding that as well. I think that's the challenge that a lot of them are facing in the space, is becoming so broad that they're not really that interested. They're not interesting enough to draw enough attention and to hold things.
Where they don't get results because they're not really good at one thing, or So
Right.
we see it all the time with traditional ad agencies who have pivoted to digital, and they hire somebody they think's good at PPC and SEO, and then it's a disaster.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we win those clients all the time. So can you share some specific examples of innovative solutions that have emerged in response to some of the challenges?
I think, I mean, I honestly go back to niching down, right? And not that that's the newest thing in the world, but I think a lot of people are afraid of it. There's this idea that I'm giving up all this other business. And there's a big pushback of, but what about all the other things I can do or could do? I think it sounds counterproductive, but by focusing on less, you can get more done. You can charge. You can offer offer a more focused offering and say, you know what, I know I can create results here, and therefore demand a higher rate. And again, your question was innovation, and I don't know that it's necessarily the newest thing in the world to niche down, but I do think that's where the market's going. 100%. I think if you want to stay general, you're just not going to thrive. You're not going to grow. You're going to struggle to get the margins you need to get. You're going to struggle to be proud of what you do every day, right? And sometimes you got to say no. That's something we've been kind of looking at, saying, what are the things we need to say no to? What are the things that historically we've said yes to that we need to call up law firm marketing pros and say, hey guys, we got a client we're working with. We're doing all the branding work. We need some help on X, Y, Z. Like, we need to be okay with doing that. And that's a lot of the conversation we're having now.
And in law, it's similar to niching into a specific area of law. That would be the analogy. I recall when I first started going through my divorce, I hired a friend who was like a generalist attorney, and within 90 days, I realized, hey, he's getting his ass handed to him here. I need somebody that focuses on family law and divorce. So,
well, here, great example. So, I had shared it briefly earlier. We made a documentary a couple of years ago. We're working on a couple other film projects now. But when we made that documentary, I knew nothing about how to structure it legally, right? A lot of film background, or a lot of video background. My partner on it had a lot of film background, and we were setting out to do this, and I'm the executive producer, right? And so I go to my attorney, and I say, I need a operating agreement for a film studio. I need investor agreements. I need to form an LLC, all this stuff. I'm like, can you help me? He's like, of course I can. So we go down this journey. It was awful. It was awful. Great guy, great firm. But there was a generalist offering, and it was a nightmare. It was a nightmare. It took months to get the paperwork. It was wrong. They gave me bad advice. I ended up forming the LLC in Delaware. It's better for investors. Well, of course, we weren't raising enough money that it mattered, right? For the type. So after all that, literally, he's like, what? At the end of it, he's like, why did you want to do it in Delaware again? I'm like, you told me to make it in Delaware, right? And he's like, well, you're only raising a few $100,000. You don't need that. So like all that happened. So after all of that, we're working on a deal with a sales agent for our film. And I'm like, not again. Like, we need to review this contract. So we started asking around who specializes in entertainment law. I'm done with this. We paid a premium. We paid twice as much. And this, I tell you, this professional knocked it out of the park. Like, she initially did a quick consult with me, said, yes, I can do this. This is what it would cost. Gave me a flat fee. She was done in like a week. Less than that. It was like 4 days. She was done with everything. She even offered to do a call review of it afterwards. I was done with everything in like a week. And it was done right. It was done perfect. So a good example of niche, she's known for that. She charges a boatload of money. But I spent about the same amount of money with her because I didn't have to redo it.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So that you actually answered the next question. So that's just a obstacle and success story that you overcame. So thanks for sharing that. What what mistakes do you see companies make relating to marketing, and for your law firm clients specifically, if you could speak to that, what mistakes do they make?
I would say, number one, lack of focus. This idea of just kind of all over the place, right? And marketing in general, I like to say, fight the battles you can win, right? If you're thinking, military strategy, you don't go and fight a battle you know you can't win. You avoid that battle. You retreat. You withdraw. Strategic withdrawal, right? You reposition and say, I'm going to fight a battle that I know I can win. If you're going to fight on 1,000 fronts, you're going to lose a war, right? But if you choose, you know what, I'm going to hold here, hold here, and I'm going to fight these 3 battles, and I'm going to win them. That's how you make progress. Same thing in marketing. If you say, I'm going to market 20 different ways, 30 different ways, you're not going to be good at any of them. You're not going to thrive at any of them. A really good example for when I started my company, I had no budget. I was just getting started. I said, and I looked at the SEO battle with my competitors, like, I'm not going to win. Nope, I'm not going to beat them. And I looked over here and I looked over, you know what I can do? I picked 2 fronts. I picked the local networking scene. I'm like, you know what? They're not anywhere. They're not at these events. I'm going to be at all of the events. And literally, I sponsored every single Chamber of Commerce event in our 4 chambers of commerce that existed. I was at every event. And so I dominated that space. And then I decided to dominate social media. I said, I could do that. I could beat them on social media. At one point, we were 15 times the engagement of our nearest competitor in social media engagement for us locally. We just destroyed them both on the physical networking and social media. And then over time, I started saying, let's win on SEO, let's win on these other channels. But I chose 2 channels to win on. And I think especially, law firms are like, let's do this and let's do this. And this sounds fun and let's do it. And it's too many. It's too many. And they're not really great at any of them. And so I would say focus is where the magic is.
And what I recommend they focus on is what's going to drive revenue fastest, so you can reinvest that revenue into some of the other stuff that they want to do.
Perfect example. Yeah, you and I were on a call with one of our mutual clients, having a conversation about different ideas, different things we wanted to do. We brought up some of the targets that we were after for the year, and we had 3 or 4 ideas out we were talking about, and you said, all right, we should focus on this strategy because this will generate the quickest revenue, which will allow you to reinvest in the other things. And so you led them and myself directly down that path and said, let's focus on, I believe it was the reactivation campaign, because we're saying, let's reactivate this huge list we have and go get some revenue from it, because we can do that.
That's right.
So that's a really good example of you practicing that just last week.
There you go. So, pivoting a little bit over to trends and developments, what are the most significant trends or changes that you're observing in marketing in just the past few years?
I think probably the single most significant, but also unpredictable is the AI, right? The usage of AI. It's equal parts exciting and terrifying because we don't understand it yet, right? And so I think right now what we're looking at, a lot of us will look at what these different AI tools can do, and we're blown away. We're like, wow, this is incredible. It's nothing. It's what it's going to be, right? It's nothing. It's just infancy. This is like the infancy of the internet, right? It's just like back when we thought AOL, we had, we could get on and all this stuff, and it's like, wow, it takes 13 days for this page to load, but wow, that's where AI is.
Right. Yeah, right.
It's going to be incredible. But also it's like, what does that mean for our industry? How do we handle when things become automated in that way? Well, how do we handle copyrights? How do we handle trademarks? How do we handle, what do you own? What do I own? What are the rights of the data that's being trained on, right? When you see, what is it? New York Times is suing them now because, OpenAI, because it's using their data without permission. And how is that going to work? And I think it's going to be really, really, really interesting to see how it affects marketing and how it affects law firms. I have a podcast myself, which just recorded last week, last Wednesday. Had an attorney in here, a client and friend of mine, talking about how AI is going to impact law firms, and that'll roll out in a couple months probably. So like it's being discussed across industries. So I think it's probably hands down the most significant trend, new technology, et cetera, but it's also incredibly unpredictable.
Yes, we're so well stated in terms of where we are in the infancy, how fast things are changing and progressing. And there's people a whole lot smarter than you and I that are talking about this. I recall listening to Elon Musk recently on a podcast. I think it might have been Joe Rogan, but it might have been, and I said someone else was on the Ed Milet podcast talking about it. So yeah, I think that you're spot on, and we're all, at least I am. I'm kind of sitting on my hands waiting, but at the same time, I'm starting to play around with some of it.
Same, yeah, dabble a little bit.
Right, exactly.
I put together a presentation the other day with it, and I said, here's my key points. Here's what I want to say. All this stuff. Here's how much time I have. Give me a layout or a format. It saved me so much time.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I have a meeting later today on Midjourney, which is a graphics generating, and we're already on Midjourney 6.0.
Yeah.
Like, how did that happen, right? Okay. So, how can companies, and specifically law firms, refine their branding and positioning to stand out in 2024?
I think it depends a lot on the law firm, right? And I think it comes back to looking inward and saying why. Who are we? Why are we? What? Looking at those things versus the what. It's so easy to focus on what the services are, but what makes us different? What makes that organization different is where it starts. From there, then you start saying, okay, because it's all about positioning, right? How do I position my brand in a way that stands out from the rest? And if you look at why do we do what we do and how do we do it, then you can turn it around and start positioning that. I'm a big fan of humanizing brands, right? Bringing the people out of the brand. And so many times you go to a website and all you see is a bunch of stock photos, and it's just really, and it's like, no, I want to see their people. I want to see the attorney. I want to see his staff, her staff. I want to see the partners. I want to see their office space. I want to see them in the community volunteering. I want to see that stuff, right? You say this a lot is, people work with people they know, like, and trust, right? And so that creates trust. When I go to a website and it's sterile and I don't see anybody, I'm wondering, is this real? Who are these people? I start to refer to, this, I always think of them as this ambiguous, but when I see real people, when I see video, when I see photo, I love to humanize brands. I think it's one of the easiest ways for a law firm specifically to do it, because law firms don't do it historically.
So we've pivoted some of our Facebook and Instagram advertising to personalized style, and they don't even look like ads. And the engagement that we're getting is 5 and 10x. So you're spot on with that, because that's what people want. So we're seeing an explosion of short form video, and you're in the video space. Is video marketing worth investing for law firms right now?
100%. And there's so many ways to use it. And I'm going to start with how not to do it. Don't go spend an enormous amount of money on one video. I've seen this. I've seen where I've come in too late on accounts, and and they just spent $50,000 on a video, right? And one video.
I was just going to ask, what's an enormous amount of money?
Right? $50,000. I've seen it. $50,000, $100,000 they spent on one video. Now, there are clients, like, we're working on a proposal right now for $50,000 for a video, but that is 35 years in business. No, they're 40 years in business. It's a feature. We're going to go on this construction company. We're going to do multiple job sites. It's this huge thing. But here's the catch. It's going to be about 50-ish, I think we're quoting. We're also going to cut it into shorter versions. We're going to cut them into clips. We're going to cut it. So they're going to get
repurposing. Right?
Yes, they're going to get one video that they pay, but they're going to get all these other pieces of it, right?
Cascading into short form, right?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Cut it down into the short form. So yes, there is a time and place for that beautiful video. Again, you're going to spend more if you're making a commercial, right? Because now you're huge distribution. That's different. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about digital, right? But if you're going to spend a bunch of money on a big video, 100% make sure you're building in all the cuts of that, right? And so I'm a big fan. We're actually working on a video proposal right now for a law firm client where we're talking about coming in, initially doing the first pass and doing B-roll and photos. So we're going to take that to humanize the brand. Then we're going to come in, we're going to do another video shoot, and we're going to capture an overview video. Who are they? What do they stand for? We're going to capture the 5 service lines. We're going to capture the 2 new kind of offerings they're about to roll out, that they've got these kind of repositioning themselves in the marketplace. We're going to do a video for each. We're going to do a careers video, culture video. What makes them stand? They're like, we want to hire. We want to do that. We're going to do some video for the website. That's the phase 2. Phase 3, we're going to schedule a quarterly filming in the studio where they come in and we create ongoing short form content. That's your ongoing educational content. That's your testimonials. And then each of those will be cut into shorter form. So 100%, it's valuable. It's useful. It's a huge part of the strategy. It humanizes the brand. It shows credibility. It gives content. You know, we've worked with mutual clients where we've provided a lot of content to you guys where, hey, here's video content to go use in the social media. And then we're getting advice from you guys saying, hey, what do you need? Right? We just had a conversation with Ian on that account and said, hey, what kind of content do you need for this ad campaign you're about to run? He said, well, I need this, this, and this. Okay, cool. When we're out there filming, we'll capture that.
Spot on. So there's a lot of controversy in almost every industry with regard to digital marketing and whether it's worth it or not. So in your experience, should a law firm invest in paid online advertising like Google PPC, in the local service ads, in YouTube ads, and social media advertising platforms?
Yes, and whichever one you use, highly recommend using a 2 things. A company that understands how to measure that. How are you measuring success? What does winning look like? If a company just says, hey, I'm going to come in, I'm going to run these ads, and there's no benchmark system, then the red flag should go up. They should understand there needs to be an ROI attached to it. They should also understand how all that ties together, right? The halo effect. When I run Google ads, how does that help my fake Facebook ads do better? When I run YouTube ads, how is that making my Google ads, my pay-per-click work better? The company should understand that, right? You guys talk about that all the time. Data analytics, right? Are they providing a dashboard? Big red flag when they're not providing a dashboard, right? You guys have some great data tools that Ian presents to our mutual client on a monthly basis. Those kinds of things are really key. I also think specialization, right? Somebody who knows how to run ads for law firms is going to do a heck of a lot better job than somebody who doesn't, right? That's just a piece of it, right? We're talking to a law firm now where there's an ad component to it. And I know that Lindsay from our team is going to be talking to you soon about that client. Well, it makes sense for us to partner on that because we've run some digital ads before. Yes, lots of them. Our own ads. Law firms are a little different. It's a little different. It's a different kind of ad, a different kind of customer, higher ticket per click. Typically, that's a different game. And it's one thing to manage a few $1,000s of budget. It's another to manage the kind of budgets you have to run for these law firms.
Right, exactly. And the one thing that I see over and over again is the mismanagement of paid ad campaigns. And it's alarming. About, 70 and 80% click waste.
Yeah.
So
the worst one was we were managing a client years ago, service-based company. We were running about 10,000 a month in ads with them. It's not a small budget, especially this was like 6 or 7 years ago. And they got a little impatient. I thought we were the numbers were good. The numbers were really good. We had just presented, but I think somebody said something somewhere, got this guy thinking, maybe I want to try a big Orlando company instead. We lost the business. And so they moved to this big Orlando company. And then apparently that didn't work out. So they moved to another agency that's local that I knew. And the creative director and I are friends. And so he calls me, he calls me up. He's like, hey, you just got this. I just want to let you know I got him. I'm like, oh, no worries, So they took him over. And years later, we earned them back, right? So it came all the way around, and we opened it up, and I look at these ads. They had not changed at all. In the years of bouncing around from agencies, those ads were exactly the same. They had not been tweaked. They had not been modified. The ad audiences were the same, which, as you know, means that they were doing terrible, right? Because they were not being optimized. And I'm sitting here going, you moved to these other two agencies and back to me and not, and so it's just a little frustrating when you look at that and like, what were they charging him to manage the ads?
And not managing anything. And here's what's worse. It's even worse than that. It's because every time you transition, there's going to be a drop.
Right.
I've never seen it happen where there's not a drop, some drop in qualified lead flow. So, so there's an opportunity cost with the transition.
Yeah.
So, how do you foresee the evolution in marketing over like the next 2 or 3 years? And we talked about AI, but can you speak to any other areas of what's evolving?
You know, honestly, the two biggest things are it's going to be AI. It's going to be utilizing AI in what we're doing. It'll be every day. It'll be the niching. Those two things. Hey, I know we talked about both of them already, but those are the two things that I think are going to affect the industry the most. I see it as it's going to be necessary. Those two things will be necessary.
And what single piece of marketing advice can you give over everything else? And don't say branding.
Focus. I come back to the focus statement. I am repeating myself again on this one, but focus. Single most important.
Okay.
Do something really good. Do it really, really, really good, right? I mean, and for Rock Paper Simple in the early days, frankly, it was branding. We were bright orange everywhere. I had the orange tie on everywhere I went. I got this orange jacket. I got my logo on the inside. We just nuts about branding, but we went out and we focused on a couple channels, the local networking and the social media, like I mentioned earlier, and we were just the loudest in those two areas. And I'll say it a different way. You can say something 10 times really quietly, or you can say something once or twice, and I'm not going to yell into your microphone, really, really loud, right? I'm going to notice the once or twice really, really loud than I am going to be the 10 whispers. Does that make sense? And I think
makes perfect sense.
Too many people try to do 10 or 20 whispers and not 1 or 2 megaphones, if that makes sense. And I think it'll
perfect sense. It makes perfect sense. I have a friend and colleague who's a member of the 7-Figure Agency Group, and he is orange, just kind of didn't even intend to be. It just every time he did a webinar, he just happened to have an orange shirt on that day. He's from Cincinnati. He's a big Bengals fan, so that's where the orange came from. And one day somebody said to him at a conference, "Hey, you're the guy that's always wearing orange on these web." And he's like, "What are you talking about?" And he went back and he looked, and then he changed his entire branding into the orange, and he's that guy now in his space. So it's great. So we're going to move quickly to the lightning round where people get to know you, like you, and trust you. Just 10 quick questions. I'm just going to start firing them off. So what never fails to make you laugh?
What never fails to make me laugh? You know, it's a weird one, but the whole who's on first skit, because when I was a kid, my dad showed me that. And so it's hilarious, but it also brings back good memories. That one, 100%, I'm going to laugh if somebody pulls that up.
Great. Best compliment you ever got?
Best compliment I've ever gotten was probably the leadership award that I won a few years back. It was the 4 under 40 as a leadership. I consider myself a student of leadership. I consider it a responsibility to lead well. And so getting that award was probably the most impactful for me personally.
Good for you. That's so well said. Best person you trade places with for a day?
That one's so hard. That one is really, really, really hard. Trade places with for a day. Probably if I could trade places with a person for a day, it'd probably be an astronaut. I'd go space.
Wow. Okay. Guilty pleasure.
I am a board game nut, completely, utterly a board game nerd. I own 160 board games. Strategic, they're strategy. I'm not talking Monopoly. I think I got one copy of Monopoly buried somewhere. I'm very strategic. That's my thing. That's my jam.
Like it. Biggest risk you ever took?
Risk. I would say when I started Rock Paper Simple was probably a really big risk. Yeah. I mean, gosh, $36,000 in tax debt,
Yeah, right.
$700 to my name. I was offered a 6-figure job at an agency in Orlando at the same time. And so literally I had to decide, do I turn down I'm broke. Do I turn down the 6-figure job? I was 24, right? So 6-figure job in Orlando. And they were adamant, like, no, we want you to come over here and do this. We like what your background is. Or do I go take my $700 and $36,000 in tax debt and build something? And that was probably the riskiest thing I've ever done.
Put on yourself every day of the week, right?
Yeah.
So, worst piece of advice you ever got?
Worst piece of advice. You know, gosh, what is the worst piece of advice I ever got? I would say it would have to relate to my marriage. I received some advice that was very much a protect yourself kind of advice when I was getting married. And I'm like, so you're telling me I should start the foundation of my marriage on I don't trust you foot? That was pretty bad advice. That was pretty bad advice.
Hopefully you didn't take it.
I did not take it. And I will say that the trust factor with my wife, I would not trade it for anything.
Good for you. Congratulations on that. So, something you wish you were better at dealing with?
Ooh, I like that question a lot. There's a couple things that come to mind. Better at dealing with. There's clearly one thing, and I'm working on it. How do I say it? When you know the feeling when you have to let go a team member, and you know it's the best thing for the company, and frankly, you know it's the best thing for them, but you got that, you like this person, right? And you're like, it just sucks. It sucks, And for me, when I've had to make a termination, typically it involves sleepless nights because I love people. I genuinely love people. And we had somebody recently we had to let go, and we love the guy to death. It was what was right, and that I wish I was better at dealing with that. I wish I communicated better there. It's just an area that I wish I was better with.
I appreciate your honesty with that. So, what is the one thing that you would like to change about yourself?
One thing I would change: discipline. I would like to be more disciplined. I am, I used to say that I was incredibly disciplined. I used to say I think that's one of my strengths. I've recently learned about myself. I'm not disciplined. I'm actually very undisciplined. I am very driven. It's different. It's different.
Very different.
I am very, very, very driven in that I will do what it takes. I will get it done, right? I will, if I committed to 15 hours a week with that client and it's going to take 30, but you know what? Integrity says I'm going to get it done. Darn it. I will get it done. But I'm very bad with that when you don't have to be driven and now it's just a discipline thing, like having a regular schedule, like my morning and evening routines, they're all over the place. I wish I was more disciplined. I would improve that.
What are you most passionate about?
People.
Okay. Tell us something most people don't know about you.
When I was around 18 or so, I was a construction foreman, of all things. It was the only job I've ever taken that I didn't work for myself. I was a construction foreman for a little bit. Let's say it was a year or two. And I was on a job site. I was last man, first man on the job, last man off the job. On a job site, 4 stories up, on scaffolding, inspecting the job, just making sure everything was done right. It's getting dark. I'm just checking out. I'm terrified of heights. And I trip over the rope that I'm supposed to be tied to. So I'm not tied off, right? And I trip over the coil of rope that I'm supposed to be tied to. Trip, and I fall headfirst over the scaffolding. And I pass one I-beam and I grab the next one with my legs.
Wow.
And and that whole thing was slow motion for me.
Yeah, right.
Whole thing. And I was a soccer player, which I think is the only reason I was able to catch myself with my leg. I mean, who does that? I still tell the story almost like, did that really happen? Caught myself. If I had fallen, I would have died. The floor or been crippled. The floor was, we were chipping siding off of this. And so it was all broken brick. I would not have survived. And so I remember, so that's a lot of people don't know that about me.
Well, sure glad that you did. I just need a quick quote from you, what your experience was like on the podcast.
Yeah, the podcast was a lot of fun. It was enjoyable to not only talk about an industry we're both passionate about, but also dig into kind of some personal stuff. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, right. Exactly. It's good stuff. That brings us to the conclusion of Behind the Bench podcast. Joshua Adams, it's been such a pleasure having you today. Head honcho and founder at Rock Paper Simple. Appreciate your time today.
I appreciate it.
Signing off for now, Josh Konigsberg from Law Firm Marketing Pros with Behind the Bench podcast for lawyers.
Thanks for listening to another fabulous episode of Behind the Bench. I hope you take action on some insight and tips you learned today. If you like what you heard, please like, subscribe, and share.